80 degrees outside. I was like, folk outside. So, let me begin with full transparency tonight. Full transparency. The New York Knicks are playing tonight. So I'm gonna be very transparent about how this TNT gonna go tonight. I'm just telling you. I love y'all, and I enjoy what I do. But this is a closeout game tonight in round one. I'm not saying I'm gonna hurry up, but I'm just saying that I may not linger as long as I might, just coincidentally, Betty, if there were no game. Especially after Sunday's game, which was any New York Knicks fans are here? What is going on? What is it? Where are we at? I need to see, huh? What do you mean y'all know better? I know better too, but, Lord, it's hard being a Knicks fan. You can't even get, you can't even get fully excited because as soon as you get excited. No. I'm not talking about this year, I'm talking about over the years. They have proven historically that when you get excited, they have to win tonight. They can't go 6 games. They got to end this in 5. I think we got Boston next series. Boston wins. I know. Yeah, I know. No, I believe. You saw the win Sunday? It was a crazy game. Oh, you saw the win. I saw them, I just don't remember it. I was 2. I was 2 when they won. So anyway, well, let's go ahead and prayer. Thank y'all for coming out tonight for this amazingly abbreviated TNT. No, I'm not going to do that. God, we thank you on the night. We're so grateful for this opportunity and this time to gather in this space and in this place, oh God, to honor you, oh God, and most of all, oh God, that we may grow together and learn together. So God, open our hearts, our eyes, our minds, that we might be receptive to your revealed word on tonight. Do whatever you need to do, oh God, on this night to get the glory, and we will continue to give you the honor and praise, oh God. We love you, and it's in your name we pray. Amen. Amen. Anybody here for the first time tonight? First time folk? Okay. Where? Oh, okay. I'm like clapping. I ain't see anybody. When you're here for the first time, you have to perform a song. Nah. Before we get going, before I talk about the scripture from Sunday, how appropriate that we watched the conclave this year. Like, how appropriate was that we actually watched the conclave as we prepare to witness the beginning of it next week. Now you got a little idea. It may not be all the way, but you have some perspective. Yes, ma'am. You're going to pay $5.99 on Prime? Yeah, because I didn't come that night. Oh, so you haven't seen it? I haven't seen it, but now if you have Prime, you can see it for free for the next several months. Well, I actually purchased it a few, whatever, because that's like a movie I want to keep. Yeah. Because I think it's such a good movie. I don't purchase a lot of movies, but I purchased Conclave, and when you go to Amazon Prime, my movies is the Conclave, Godfather 1 and 2, a documentary that is absolutely amazing, Chasing Train, about John Coltrane. Oh man, and then and then if you've never seen Darkest Hour is a movie where Gary Oldman, who I love as an actor, plays Winston Churchill. And it is an absolute. I don't think Churchill is one of my favorite leaders for a number of reasons, but I don't think people understand how close Europe came to being completely run over by Germany. And literally, it was Great Britain and really Winston Churchill. If it was the social media days, they may have lost. But because he was able to so eloquently lie to the people, to keep their morale going and to make them believe, it's just what he was able to encourage the people to stand strong. And then if you know anything about history, Dunkirk, when the British Army was basically trapped off the coast, and he got civilians to take their boats to rescue these soldiers. And these were civilians who had no weaponry. They were being shot at. I mean, it was the most amazing effort that he literally employed the citizens to get their private boats to go save these soldiers. I mean, his leadership was just on a scale of great leaders of the 20th century. He's definitely one for a number of reasons. And he was, what I guess you would call today a functioning alcoholic. Absolutely. So, and he, sharp wit, is one of the greatest speech makers of all times, and he had a speech impediment, which is amazing. There's this quote where a woman, it's a terrible thing, but it was a woman who he was giving a speech and called him out for being an alcoholic. And it was bad, his statement, but it's funny, but it was sad. And she said, Mr. Prime Minister, you are an alcoholic. He said, yes, madam, and you are ugly. He said, I can stop drinking. I was like, ooh. Ooh. That is cold. That was cold. She was cold for trying to confront him. So if you step to him in front of it, like, you got to be ready for the backlash, But he said, I could stop drinking. That was it. I died when I heard that one. But yeah, so I thought the time of the conclave is just amazing. Secondly, to many of my colleagues in ministry, ministry is very interesting to me in this day and age, and it has been interesting to me for a long time, because I consider myself like a throwback, not in terms of theology or how we express ourselves in terms of church, but in terms of the things that move me, that shape what I do. In part because many of my mentors were, what you would call these stand-up people, right? And I had great mentors who were considered legends in the work, whether it is Dr. Gardner Taylor, who at one point was considered the dean of black preachers, one of the greatest preachers I ever heard in my life. Then my pastor, Reverend Dr. William Augustus Jones, Bill Jones, out in Brooklyn. And one of the greatest preachers I've heard. And then my advisor in grad school was Sam Proctor, who was a pastor of Abyssinian after Adam Cleanpow for 17 years. And the reason why they were amazing people is because they were humble. There was a certain grace and humility about them. They were approachable. They were accessible, which is probably why I'm that way. And I have big issues with people in ministry, right, who have these entourages, and you ask them to preach, they send you a rider of their requests, and everything is, well, not now, it's been this prosperity, money, it's all that. I have a problem with that. But when you think about when you think about Pope Francis, who leads the largest gathering of religious people, Christians in the world, who led rather, and you think about the fact that when he died, he was worth $100. $100. Because he had a salary as the Pope, which was 340 euros a year. That's about maybe 400,000 US that he didn't take. He did not stay in the papal palace. He stayed in a small apartment, which was actually right near a gas station in the Vatican. He didn't take the ostentatious papal red shoes that, when you're the Pope, he had the same black shoes he wore. No wealth, right? Because he was a Jesuit priest, and they take a vow of poverty. Now, I wonder how many of my colleagues would actually still do this if they had to take a vow of poverty. When you think about it, as the Pope, your food is taken care of, your clothes are taken care of, where you live is taken care of, when you travel is taken care of. And in his mind, what do you need with wealth at that point, when the things that are foundational to our survival in some ways are taken care of? And then if you think that the sick and dying, he spends his last day just with the people on Easter Sunday, with the people, dies the next day. And so the Catholic Church is at a crossroads right now, because the Pope had many critics within the church because he was liberal. He was opening up Catholicism differently, giving more credence to the role of women, blessing members of the LGBTQ community publicly, and on and on. And if you look at the Conclave, the movie, it's the exact battle between the conservative popes who want to return it back to the tradition, right? And the liberal, not popes, the conservative cardinals and the liberal cardinals. Now the thing is that this particular pope appointed 100 plus cardinals. So I don't want to say the deck is stacked. What I will say is going to be very interesting when they begin the conclave May 7th. I would be surprised if they pick a pope in a couple of days. If they pick a pope in a couple of days, that means the deck was super stacked one way or the other. But and they can take, and it may be, because I think they could take something up to 30 plus votes a day. And how it goes on is that you have, in the same sequestered space, different cardinals who are basically advocating for a particular cardinal over the next. There are those who talk about the two potential African cardinals who could be pope. I'm not sure about that. And it has nothing to do with race. It has completely to do with theology. Because the fastest growing population of Catholicism in the world is Africa. But it's also some of the most rigid and conservative manifestations of Catholicism. You have African Catholics and leaders who believe that, people who are gay should be put in prison and killed, some even killed. It is very conservative, ultra conservative. I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm going to tell you that if one of those African cardinals becomes the Pope, it is going to be a complete shift from Pope Francis. So it's going to be interesting. Pope Francis was the first non-European pope since 741. You should think about that. He was from Argentina. And there are many people in Argentina who felt some kind of way because he never visited once he became pope. But his rationale is strong. He said, if he goes back home, they will make that political. It becomes a political statement. He can't just appear in his hometown, in his home country. It's a difficult space to be in. But like 2013, it is a riveting thing. I will be looking at the TV to see when that white smoke comes up. And then, I love the process though, right? Because you're waiting, because they don't tell you. They just say, what is it? Haba, Mas Papam, something. We have a pope. And then at that moment, that person is getting ready. They're putting on the garments, and the first time, and there's no releasing of who it is. So all the news around the world have the list of potential people and ready to hit. Once they see that face, boom, they go. So it's probably one of the most secretive processes. And then even now, what they're doing now daily is sweeping the gathering, the hall, for surveillance, anything. So it is a very interesting, I'm always intrigued by it. I've seen a couple of that thing, but I'm always intrigued by it. It's a very powerful moment because what Pope Francis did is take the kind of feeling of monarchy out of it, because the office of Pope is very much in alignment with the office of King. Even the language, the Holy See, the throne of the papacy. All this language is deep to me. But he was very different. Even when he took his name after St. Francis of Assisi. From the very beginning, he made it clear that his leadership would be radically different. Since then, it made me wonder. That's why I thought the conclave was interesting, because I always wondered, how did he become the Pope? And it makes you wonder what was going on, because I think most people, when they were never saw him. He was not a person even talked about leading up. In many ways, this is what I think the conclave was based on. They just put a lot of they just put a lot of high drama in it. But you had the same thing. A cardinal from Latin America, himself in Latin America, and becomes the Pope out of nowhere, how Francis did. So it's very interesting. That's the one, when he became the Pope, that's the one time I really was wondering, how did he become the Pope? How did he get it? So, all right, well, it'll be good to watch next week for those who have time. Just like the Knicks game is going to be good to watch tonight. But a lot has happened. We've had a revival. What do we have going on? What was going on Tuesdays? Oh, we canceled last Tuesday. Yeah. And we got another revival coming up. This is one I've been talking about for a minute, in the sense of saying, for the past 2 years, I think in our meeting, I've been saying I want to do this. And then I almost didn't do it. But why you laughing? That's inside scoop. I almost didn't do it. But I always want to do that Morehouse in Manhattan in May. And some of my friends, Stephen Carter, who's been here before years ago, but he was an associate minister with me when I pastored in North Carolina. And then Jamal Bryant is a classmate of mine. We were classmates at Morehouse and Duke. And then,
Said we went down to his church a couple of years ago.
To Jamal? No. No, we never been down there. I've been there. When he was in Baltimore, I preached him a couple times, but not at New Birth in Atlanta. And then E. Dewey Smith is a classmate of mine. E. Dewey Smith was someone who I spoke to when I first went to ministry, because E. Dewey Smith is a year older than me, but started pastoring at 19. We were in college. I was like, how you doing this, bro? 19, pastoring our people? He's been here. Yeah, he's been here quite a few times. He's been here a few times, but it's been a minute. So I'm looking forward to a good revival, and then to let you know, I'm gonna be going on sabbatical this year. In the summer months, I want to June and July. I just need a break. I told my assistant today. I said, "Why am I still working so hard?" She said, "I don't know. Like, why am I still working so hard?" But I definitely need a break, so that's coming. But we going to prod along. So, any questions before I start? Biblical, theological, cultural, political, or anything that you want to hear my 2 cents or my 1 cent on what is?
Before he passed, he had already had an idea who didn't he choose?
No, he didn't choose anybody. This is the thing. No.
Because how is it that
Get the mic so I can. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good evening, all of the viewers. Okay, so you said that he didn't have
No.
choose. It wasn't choosing.
No. What he did, if you remember the movie, after he died, and Cardinal Bellini, who wanted to be the Pope, was sitting down with Cardinal Lawrence. And Cardinal Bellini asked him, he said, "You think anyone would mind, if you remember, if he took the chessboard that he and the Pope played chess regularly?" He said, "Yes, I'm sure he wanted you to have it." And he said, "Did you ever beat the Holy Father?" He said, "No, he was always 8 moves ahead of me." Well, the Pope was really one of the main characters of that movie. Although he was dead, he was 8 moves ahead of everybody. So he had in the headboard, remember, he had the write-up on everybody. That's how, if you remember when they found that write-up, and he had basically had notes on everybody who was kind of sleazy, right? Then he knew that this unknown would come into the fold for the conclave when he passed, that he made a cardinal in secret, right? And also, if you know the movie, if you don't know the movie, I'm sorry, but in secret. And he also knew that cardinal situation and was willing to pay for the surgery if need be. But even after knowing his situation, still made him a cardinal. Right? Now that's the very powerful thing. He knew that this particular person would upset the apple cart. Now, did he know he would become Pope? And well, no. But I think the movie led you in the direction to know it would be somebody out of left field who would get it. We just didn't know how out of left field it was until the very end. I think when I told you all about the movie, I didn't tell you anything. I just said the ending is going to blow your mind. Because it moves like a regular, you almost say, "Oh, I saw this come." After he gave the speech, after Benitez gives the speech to Tedesco, and it's like, "Oh yeah, he definitely going to be the Pope now after that speech." But it was a whole lot more than that. And it was like, wow. And it was so good. But yeah, that's a good question. As you can tell, I'm a movie head. I know name. I won't forget nothing in movies. Anybody? Yes, ma'am.
This is cultural. Oh, Lord. Would you go see Sinners?
Yeah, I saw it.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I loved it.
Okay.
What do you mean, would I go? Would I go? Like, I saw somebody on TikTok talking about, I'm not going to talk about it. Y'all got 3 weeks to see it. Remember my rule. I give you 3 weeks in the movie come out before I start talking about it. So y'all would think, you got 1 more week. Some of these folks, like, I saw somebody on TikTok or other people saying, "Oh, Christians shouldn't go see this movie." Christians are some of the most spooky, pooky people. And also don't even understand. So I want you to understand it. Just hear me for a second. I'm not trying to justify it. I just want to tell you how when people make these statements about things like that they don't know about, most Christians know nothing about voodoo or Santeria or nothing. Or Yoruba religion. They know nothing. All right? And that means that what we don't know, we demonize. out of ignorance. Now, you can say whatever you hear. Oh, now Pastor talking about he believe in voodoo. I don't care what you think. But what I'm saying is that too much ignorance leads our thoughts. And if you don't know something before you speak, go look it up and find out. So when I hear people say, oh, witchcraft, right? You hear it all the time, oh, you can't watch no witchcraft. First of all, I'm in a month, I'll be 54, thank God, in a month. Now, I'm a cinephile, which means I love movies. I ain't never seen a movie in my year. Now, I'm a movie head, I'm telling you. I've never come from a movie talking about something, oh God, my faith is under fire. They're trying to take my Jesus. And I've been to all kinds of movies, horror movies. Now I'm gonna tell you, I will be honest with you, I don't get shaken by horror movies. But there was one chain of movies, because horror movies actually are kind of funny to me. Because what it is that I approach horror movies knowing it's not real. So when I walk in the theater, this is all movie. This is Hollywood. So I don't be like, but I will tell you something that was real. That did get me a little bit, and when I watched it, like I ain't really watched them twice. That was The Conjuring. The Conjuring had me a little. I was sitting that night, I was a little shook a little bit at The Conjuring. I was like, because it was true story too. I was like, what? Yeah, that thing had me a little. I was like, nah, I don't want no parts of that. That was the only time I ever had. And then when I was a kid, I had nightmares from Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I don't know why I was watching it at 7, whatever I was. I don't know why I was watching that. But I know when I finished watching, I ran right in my grandparents' room. Was like, I need to sleep in here. I was like, I'm ready for that. But none of the other stuff. So I will say this, right, with the spooky, because we're the most superstitious people in the world, by the way, and critique what we think is superstition. Now, if you want, I want to hear this now. I want you to hear this, what I'm about to say. I'm not saying what's right or wrong. I just want to hear how we don't, as Christians, we don't always process things. Now, you're going to be critical of a religion you don't understand and be like, that's witchcraft. But you're going to sit here and talk about killing a lamb, spreading the blood on the doorpost. That's Christianity, by the way. The whole thing of sacrifice is believing in how you divvy up the sacrifice and where the blood goes, and this is all in Judaism. And so it's in our history. It's in the scripture. So I'm like, when you talk about, oh, witchcraft, they be killing chickens and taking the blood and spread. Well, what you do with the lambs? So if we slaughter the lamb and take the blood and rub it on the doorpost, what is that? So I just be like, just think about stuff before you start speaking critically. Like, think about, we up here talking about, I know it was the blood. Like, ain't this deep? We gonna judge another for the use of blood, but blood everywhere. Now we sing about the blood, power. I plead the blood. Like, it's very confusing to me. I'm like, do y'all hear yourself? And then we hear something. We talk witchcraft. Listen, I'm gonna say it again. I've studied religions, and I've never been like scared to study anything. I remember being in grad school and studying about Santeria and voodoo. I don't know. Okay, I didn't get right to ooh, that's not of God. Like, I don't get it. If you clear about who you are and what you believe, I could go anywhere. It don't matter to me. I'm going anywhere. I'm like sitting there talking about something, Pastor. But when I saw people talking, even not to you, but it's a question that you understand because you hear so much criticism of it, or we shouldn't be going to see that. Man, it's a great movie. And to get 100% on Rotten Tomatoes as a black movie, come on. I mean, it was just great. It was really good. Yeah. I'll get the mic because I can't really always hear. And then I'm going to give a little teaching, and then I'm going to go to home.
Being that you're on the subject of witchcraft,
Uh-huh.
like that,
How do you feel about people that get spiritual readings?
That's on you. I mean, I said it the other day, you know, Miss Cleo made a lot of money from a whole lot of Christians who couldn't wait on the Lord and be of good courage. They needed to know what's going to happen. I mean, listen, man, I had years ago, my daughter used to do competitive cheerleading, and every year the competition was in Orlando, Florida. She was in and her team, age division, won the national championships all the time. It was amazing to see that. Because I started thinking it was easy because her team always won the national championship. I'm like, man. And so one time during the break, I got to make you laugh. Now, I used to love roller coasters. I used to. Until this trip many, many years ago. I love roller coasters. But I don't know if they still got it. Universal had a ride. I think to this day my neck's still messed up from this ride. Because ever since this ride, my neck ain't been right. And it was the doggone Incredible Hulk. That Incredible Hulk ride was beast, man. I walked out there like this. I ain't been back on a roller coaster since. I'm retired. That was it. And I was like, late 30s or something like that. I'm 50. I ain't been on a roller coaster since. Now you're gonna get me there because you're gonna give me a funnel cake with some ice cream. I'm gonna get there, but I ain't get on nobody ride. You might find me in a Small World or something. But I'm not getting on no more roller coasters, Zach. I'm retired. And if you've never been to Epcot Wine and Food Festival, oh gosh, that was amazing. You gotta do it in 2 days though. If you've never been, you got to go to one half of the park in one day. Because if you've never been to the Wine and Food Festival, there's food and beverages from all over the world, from the beginning to the end of it. And everywhere along, they give you food and beverage, and the beverage are not non-alcoholic. So by the time you get halfway through the park, you're like, yeah, I'm going to go home, and I'll get y'all tomorrow. But, so my son and I, we walked into the park, and they had a person do a psychic doing readings. So I said, man, let's go inside and do it. So I go in there, and I just want, it was a problem. I had never done it, so I thought, let me go. So we go in there and pay the money, and you know me, I'm always waiting for the hustle, right? I'm sitting there looking like. Now, when she started, she did her whatever she did, and with the car, whatever she did. And when she started, it got real quick. Because she was like, now mind you, I just walked in there. I had on some shorts. Oh, let me pause for a second. I can tell you something that happened today. So you know the Pastor Manning at Otla, he's running for mayor. Pastor Manning's running for mayor. That's all I'm going to say. And so I was leaving the post office today, walking back to church, and one of the people had the like a card who must be working for the campaign, and she was like, you know Pastor Manning here, give me a card, you in New York City for us, and we start talking, and we're standing right here, right by like the side entrance, and so this was really funny. Now, I said to her, I said, oh, okay. I said, well, I pastor this church right here. She said, this church right here? I said, yeah. She busted up and down, but she was like, I'm talking about from head to toe, was like, you the pastor of this church? And I was like, yeah. I know she thought I was lying. The way she looked me up and down was like yeah, she went like this. She said, this church right here? I said, yeah, First Corinthians. Oh, okay. And then I knew she thought I was lying, right? That was funny. Anyway, so we end this psychic. Now, I'm not going in there. I've never been, but I'm like interested to see what's going to happen. So we walk in there, me and Trey sitting there, but she's doing a reading, whatever, of me. And then she says, she goes, yeah, I'm getting visions. I was like, and this is where it got real. She said, you on a regular basis, you speak to thousands of people. I said, And then she hit me with this, and you and your wife do it together. Trey said, I'm out. Trey was like, peace. At this point, I'm stuck now. I'm like, wait a minute. Somebody got the gift, because you don't just guess that one. You ain't just gonna come on. So I was like, somebody walking out there was like, yeah, I mean, who am I to be like, what gifts ain't real? I mean, the scriptures talk about, but I'm telling you, that was not a fluke. The way, you don't just guess that. And then she started hitting some very particular things. I was like, what? And then she kept talking about, and you have challenges with your health, and you almost died. And I was sitting there like, and then for like 3 seconds, my heart was beating fast, because I don't know what she's gonna say next. Because she on it so far, so I was like, but it was deep. So, I mean, listen, man, if you want to spend money and do all that, God bless you. But the idea about, you're going to go to hell, look, I ain't got time for that. Jesus made it clear who ain't going, who not going. And, and when Jesus talked about who going and who not going, it had to do with feeding folk, giving folk water, providing clothing, welcoming strangers, visiting those who sick and in prison. That's what the measuring test is. All these other things we manufacture to justify, from Jesus' teachings, he makes it clear what's righteous and what's not righteous. So I don't get caught up in all that stuff, man.
Isn't your heaven and your hell is your state of being?
Well,
Because if God lived within,
mm-hmm.
so if the spirit of heaven is within,
The kingdom of heaven.
the kingdom of heaven is within.
But the kingdom of hell could be within too.
That's my point. That's exactly what I'm saying. And so people actually perceive it as a location, like an open floor, and then you see all this fire. But the fire is inside. All the hell that I've been through in my journey, that and I couldn't even see the light of day. That it was always dark. I mean, I'm outside, it's daylight, it's night.
Yeah.
But
But
I'm talking about my personal, my mental.
yeah.
So now that when I accept Christ in my life, it's like it's heavenly, because I struggle, but it's not consuming as it was before.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you, it was hot.
Yeah.
You know, so when we talk about heaven, I notice that people look up, and I'm like, this is just me.
Yeah. But you had a good teacher, so I mean.
Yeah, but see, but I'm just saying, like, it's just like a place that's unattainable. Like, I've been in planes, and I done went 32,000 feet, and I'm still here.
Yeah.
God. I'm not like looking out.
Well, 30,000 feet up, you actually see what's important.
Well, actually, the beauty.
Because I've never seen a person from 30,000 feet
I
up.
see his creation, because his creation, like
I want you to say it again.
Okay.
From 30,000 feet, you're on it. You can see the oceans, you can see the heaven, you can see the mountains. You don't see people.
not at all.
Our significance starts fading about 2,000 feet up. All right, which puts things in perspective if you think about it. The higher you go, the less you see of us. It's a whole. But let me also add to that. So I said I wasn't going to talk about the movie, but I'm going to drop this little piece. All right. There's many themes in those who see it. If you walk around talking about some witchcraft, you done lost the whole movie. You done missed it. But I mean, there's so many great scenes. I won't give them all. I'm not going to give them all. So I'm not. No, but this is not the scene. I'm not giving the plot movie. At this point, all you gotta do is watch TikTok. You get the clips of the whole doggone movie. I mean, you get on TikTok, you're gonna see it all. But when Sammy, as an old man, says to Stack, he said, and this is the part you got to get. He said, on that day, before the sun went down, it was the best day of my life. Now I need you to understand what he dropped when he says that. I think some people miss in the movie the juxtaposition of light, dark, not the way we think. What he just said is that the truth is every day before the sun goes down, you should make sure it's the best day of your life. You should live every day in some way. Live a little every day instead of die a little every day. Right? Because what does it look like? See, we always say things like, we don't know the time nor the hour, but we behave like we do. We behave like we got forever. A sure sign sometimes is when I know we all been there. I thought about this recently last week. I spent some time away with some of my friends and we were talking about this. The insanity, and sometimes when we have these deep conversations, the insanity of holding a grudge. As if you feel you got time to make it up. Right? In the scripture, the thing I love about Jesus, I say that because, I think one of the reason why I teach the way I do is because I think that most believers don't see Jesus as a teacher of wisdom. They see Jesus as a savior and a miracle worker, not a teacher of wisdom. And so what happens is I get frustrated sometimes personally when I see, like, in a commercial culture, you see a lot of shirts or quotes from like the Buddha or Confucianism or these other, but very few from Jesus, because all of a sudden I don't want to be too religious. And the thing I realize is that Jesus's teachings are wisdom teachings. So when Jesus says things like, don't let the sun go down on your anger, that's a very profound statement, right? Or before you worship God, to make sure you reconcile any misgivings you have with another person. Like, these are profound sayings. Like when I studied the Tao Te Ching, and you read the different sayings in the Tao, and then you look at Jesus' teachings, they're all in the same family, whether it's Buddhism, because love is at the heart of it. Teachings steeped in love are not going to be unfamiliar to one another. So we don't look at Jesus as a teacher of wisdom, but if we, instead of us trying to see if we could win souls for Christ, which I don't understand, we need to be more committed, as we do and talk about, to making disciples of Jesus. Because making a disciple is really first what Jesus told us to do, but it grounds you differently. It doesn't have you singing songs about the sweet by and by. It has you committed to living in a particular way right now. I know we talk about, when I died, but let me tell you this, Mary. I'm gonna tell you this for real. I personally don't know anybody who came back and was like, Mike, let me tell you what it's like. And so if we don't have any eyewitness testimonies about it, why are we so preoccupied with it? Jesus' teachings are not about dying, it's about living. Because death is inevitable. I know the church teaches it, or historically in the negative way, like it was some punishment. Okay, fine. Well, you know you're going to leave this place. The greatest moment of awareness you can do as a human being is the moment you realize you will die. And it happens in different times. Most of the time it happens to us in our youth, most of the time early teens, because you don't think about it. And usually it's accompanied when someone close to you, if you were young, like in my case, like my grandfather dies, it's the first reality of like death. Because when you're a kid, you're not walking around saying, boy, we could be here today, gone tomorrow. Who said that at 8? So you face every day, children face every day filled with all these possibilities. Like, there's no better way of learning how to navigate life than I say back in the days, because now it's very different, and I'll tell you why. But there's nothing better than back in the days. I'm talking about my era and before me, where like school is out, summertime. What was better than that? If you didn't go to camp, if you weren't privileged to go to camp, you was on the block. But you literally got up every day thinking about, man, what fun are we going to have today? That was the whole point. I'm gonna go to the park, we're gonna go down, play stickball, we're gonna play Scully, whatever it is. It was choosing what adventure that I will engage, you know. And if you went to camp, you felt like you were deprived. I mean, I went to camp a couple times, and you felt deprived because by the time I got home from camp, it was like, oh man, the whole day was gone. My boys was all out there. I was like, they could keep this camp stuff, I'm done. But the adventures, every day you faced it like that. Like, what are we gonna do to have fun? Literally. And you make up games. You're playing dodgeball, kickball, stickball. Everything is fun. And then when you get older, right? It becomes not what I'm gonna do to have fun, what I'm gonna do to pay these bills. What I'm gonna do to make a living. You know, how I'm gonna get money. And life changes. And then if you add in there some disappointment, some trauma, some hurts, throw in there some children had, children lost, you can go on and on. Life just gradually has this way, if we let it, to just sap us of so many things. When you talk about life be life, and yes, but the reality is, then how do you face it? To me, I see the teachings of Jesus as those tools that empower me to face life honestly and then live it authentically. Face it honestly, live it authentically, the best you can. Now, I've been pastoring 29 years. Did I think this way 29 years ago? Of course I didn't. I was 25 years old. At 25 years old, there were some things I just did not experience. I ain't gonna say nothing more about sinners, but when you go see it, there's a scene with Delroy Lindo, who's in it, when he's talking about the blues, and then he has a moment, because when he says to the young boy, what you know about the blues? Well, what he was saying is, have you lived long enough to experience deep disappointment? Have you lived long enough to suffer, to hurt? Because we are, in the words of like Cornel West, we are a blues people. And not just us, people of color in this country, in some way, shape, or form. The blues emerges from a particular place, right? Like jazz emerges from a particular place. Blues emerge from a place of psychic wounding and the sounds we make to try to rail against the brutality of life and the wailing and blues never quite sounds right, but that's when it's the best, right? Is the pitch perfect? No. Are the melodies great? Is the harmony great? No. But boy, is something about those chords and the sounds of those singing, of those playing. It's something to hear, B.B. King and Lucille, right? Or to listen to an old clip of Muddy Waters. Like, something is emerging from this reservoir of pain that we are acutely aware of, and out of it give birth to. So imagine someone listening to blues and saying that's the devil's music, when it was the blues was like a trauma response, right, to the insanity and the brutality of racism in this country. And the only American you hear classical music is jazz. The music unique to this country is an overflow of the black lived experience. So, I mean, those realities, and how do you navigate life in a way where you don't engage in some escapism? Because if we say, I'm living here, I'm trying to do this so that I can go to heaven, that actually is a form of escapism, right? It really is. But I don't want to say, I'm at the old school, I'm sending up my timber for my house not made with hands. If it's a house not made with hands, which timber you sending up? You know, and I remember being in North Carolina pastoring, and I'm from here. So when I started pastoring in the South, I'm hearing these quartets songs. What are they talking about? Sending up my timber. I was like, what is that? But it was build my house in heaven. Like, it was all these things. but how we had to face the harshness of life. A lot of it was part of our coping and our surviving was our music. I can't wait till the 3 weeks is up, because there's a lot in that movie that is amazing to me. And hats off to Ryan Coogler. My God, what a well done movie, and I love it. And then when you start seeing the white stars of Hollywood talk about how great a movie this is, and it's good. So yeah, I think that a lot of it, when we talk about life, I think there is a Christianity, because let's also be clear, we hear this say, we always say, oh, Christianity is white man's religion. Well, that's a lie. That's a narrative. That's not true. Christianity existed on the continent and other parts of this world way before the transatlantic slave trade existed, way before that. So that's a misnomer. The particular way Christianity was used here was very interesting. But it doesn't take away from the narrative. That's why you saw those enslaved people who were creating songs in reaction to what they were being told about themselves, and created songs that were the antithesis of the narratives about their inferiority. It's a powerful thing to be able to do, and to make sense of living, right? When everything around your world is about death and the threat of it or the fear of it, to find a resolve to live, right? Because what you don't hear a lot of, we don't hear a lot of talk about, and it happened during slavery, are the amount of enslaved people who committed suicide. You don't hear that part talked about. You don't hear people talk about that part. And that's a big reality. You don't hear them talk who just refuse to face this stuff. I was like, I'm done. Or those who literally killed their children rather than have them be raised in this insanity. These heroic acts that we viewed as brutal, but it was actually life for many. So, for me, Christianity is not this kind of spooky thing when we sitting around trying to figure, what we going, all these rules and all these rituals and all these ceremonies. That's not the Jesus movement. And I stand, and I think I can critique it the way I have for 29 years because I'm in it. I don't like people critique it from the outside because you don't know enough to me. But if you're inside a thing, you can critique it. It's like those who critique America. Inside of it, we can critique it because we also love it, right? And even though it has its problems, we do. I've been a lot of places in this world, and I've been a lot of places. Now, there was a time I said I can't see living somewhere else. Now I could definitely see living a few other places. That's what I love about this younger generation now, that they are not afraid to go around the world and set up shop. I love that. We didn't understand that the world was big when we were younger. The world is very small now to those who are like under 40. The world is much smaller than it was when we were coming up. You couldn't process. Europe was on the map in 4th grade, right? Like you couldn't process just picking up and we're gonna go here and all this. So our world was small. But now the world is so big now. Now you can go rent an Airbnb somewhere for 3 weeks at a time and live and learn. I mean, those things are powerful and they're beautiful. And that's why I think many young people are leading us in that regard, right? But I think that our walk with God and our journey with God, shaped by the teachings of Jesus, we constantly find ourselves at different crossroads in life, and decisions have to be made. The truth is that many people grasp Christianity because they're afraid to make decisions. Christianity becomes another form of escape from responsibility as a human being, right? So you'll hear people say, they're like, well, God, why did you let that happen? What you mean? We got to find it because we actually find rationales that are not steeped in human responsibility. And God is the greatest scapegoat ever created, right? God led it. God did it. God moved it. God had it. God took her. God took them. Like when I cringe. I've been doing this for a long time. But when I hear somebody get up here at a funeral and say, you know, well, God needed her. For what? What did God need her for? Well, God needed her for what? What does God need from us? But we just say stuff, right? Or, you know, God clearly has some other design. Like what? What was God's design for the grandmother who got shot on 113? What's God's design? God had a design for that?
You know, I heard when I was over there, and her grandson, well, I spoke to him briefly, but then someone said exactly that, like, to him,
Yes, yeah.
your grandmother, it was her destiny. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So I had to pull that person to the side, was like saying, I'm sorry, but you had no right to say that.
Yeah, no.
Like as if God was like, okay, I'm gonna allow religious gunplay and stuff like here in the streets like that.
Yeah.
Well, that's decisions that humans made. That's why when I talk about the hell,
Yeah.
the hell that God created for himself.
Well, what about the hell her grandson experienced? Right.
This is my
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Like when he said it sent chills up my spine. Like how, like,
Yeah, because
you know, like it was the time. Like really?
no, it was the time thing I don't even engage in. But again, it is the way many of us have been taught to experience and give language to death or God's role in it, right? So when you begin by saying God is, and this is my 20 years here, I've been saying, having these conversations. For 20 years, no lie, God is in control. If that's what you've been told all your life, and something like that happens, well, the logical thing to wonder is, well, then God, why? If you're in control of everything, why is that happening? And God is in control, to me, becomes a way, in some ways of thinking, to alleviate ourselves of the responsibility for our actions. There are consequences to everything, right? And the actions are not always, we don't always, you know, I'm pretty sure the young man who turned himself in, I'm pretty sure that when he grabbed the gun, before he pulled it, he said, now God, should I do this? Because that's the only way you could justify, right? He got back from God, yeah, go ahead, pull it. To say God let it. Because then at that moment when the young man pulled the gun ready to shoot, we want the hand of God to come through the clouds and give me that gun. Give me that gun here, but then the gun on 129th goes off. You see, it doesn't really make sense. So it may work when it comes to things like, it makes sense when it comes to like win the lottery. You be like, boy, God is a wonder. I praise all, because you know how y'all do, you see the big lottery, you be actually trying to have a prayer life, and you say stuff like, God, you know when I get it, I'm going to tithe first. Because you, as if you think by saying that, it's like, that's going to be the thing to make you get it. Oh, God, you know, 10% going to go to church now, Lord. But it doesn't make sense. And it's conditioning us to live life in a very particular way, right? And the way that we try to scapegoat God is not biblical. Now, watch this segue. Y'all going, this is smooth, y'all, right? Because if God, now this is very controversial. I probably shouldn't do this on the night when I have to go home I go home to see on something, you know. But when you say, this is a good conversation tonight, short but powerful, everything leads into the other. When you say God is in control of everything, always controversial when I challenge this. That's why I love challenging it so much. There's always one or two people over these 20 years who, I don't like what you said, Pastor. All right. Know this, I've been doing this for a long time. Sunday scripture, you see how I did that? Joshua 1. why would God need to tell Joshua be strong and courageous if God is in control? What does his strength and courage have any impact on? If instead of saying be strong and courageous, play your role. What would God need Joshua to be strong, courageous for, right? If God is in control of everything, what will his strength or courage do to impact any outcome? You see? All you get is a simple question, right? Because if God is in control in that way. So you got to answer the question of why will God, according to the story, encourage Joshua to be strong and courageous? Why would he tell him to remind them these things? Wherever you go, meditate on the word day and night. Do not let it pass from your heart. Wherever you go, everywhere your foot touches is yours. All this, and I'm going to be with all these things. What does it matter whether I'm convinced if God is going to be with me, if God is in control of everything? Does that make sense? Is it just me? And if you feel differently, please let me know, because I don't mind having a conversation. But think about that. Just think for a second. Don't lead with assumption. Lead with openness and say, wait a minute. Because in the church, we don't always think about the things we say. We repeat what we've been told or we hear. And the deep thing is, some of the deepest defenders of the church are some of the people with the greatest questions, who don't know how to turn off what they've been told or given, but still have pressing concerns and issues with not God, let's be clear, but with the theological and doctrinal framework of much of our faith, right? Because I don't know, I can't speak with absolute authority about God. I don't think anyone can. But I don't want to believe that the God that I've been introduced to through the teaching of Jesus is insecure. Because many of the ways we talk about God is a pretty insecure person. If it was a person, it'd be really insecure, right? If you're in a relationship, male or female, if it's your husband, your wife, your spouse, your partner, listen, I don't want you talking to nobody but me. He'd be like, brother, what's wrong with you? Right? Because you hear that, I'm a jealous God. God is a jealous God. What does that actually mean? Why would God be jealous? Because then you can't hit me with a jealous God and the all-powerful God. Because you're all-powerful. What you jealous of? What? Of what? So is that the actual word in Hebrew, jealous, the way we think? I mean, it's all these questions I raise because it doesn't add up. God is saying, you shall have no other God but me. Is that about insecurity? Like, it's not. So, I mean, and in some ways it can be. We create a picture of a very insecure, wrathful, vindictive God. And the problem is, the wrathful, vindictive, insecure God is not the picture painted by Jesus. That's the biggest problem. It's not that I sit around as a pastor and just question everything. I look at things through the lens of Jesus' teachings. And I'm not concerned with necessarily how, in Jesus' theological world, God was vindictive and wrathful. He comes with another image of God that's a complete break from the images that have been given through Judaism. So is Jesus wrong? Well, if you traditionally believe that he's the incarnation of God, if you believe he's the incarnation of God, that means that what he has to say is important. You can't just say this is the incarnation of God and, oh, he died for me. What did he say for you? What did he teach for you? See, those are the things that we got to look at differently. So God tells Joshua, be strong and courageous. Why? Why would he tell him that? I mean, we could all speculate, but let me give you my little personal translation in the next 12 minutes. Because I got things to tend to. Can I give you this is not the Message, this is the Michael version, not the Message version. Let me give you this. Bruh, don't blow it. I need you to stand on business, 10 toes down. Don't blow this. Because you're following somebody who blew it. Whew. Mind you, he ain't here, and he not even going to see Canaan because he blew it. Don't blow it. Don't let your fear, don't let your insecurity be the foundation of your leadership. This is big. Because you can't lead. We all have insecurities. You just can't lead through them. Right? This is Moses. The mistakes of Moses are the mistakes of a leader who listened too much to the people he was leading. Because sometimes you got to lead them, but you can't listen to them. Especially when the ones you listen to ain't the ones who called you in this. Right? If God called me to this, I take you seriously, but I can't always listen, Mary. Moses becomes a picture of what happens when you listen. And every time the people got upset, he was like, oh gosh, God, why you ask me to do this? I told you. I didn't want to do this. People crazy. Got me out here. I had no water. Like so he's like, why you got me? And so every time they raise a complaint, he reacts. That's leadership 101. You can't react to the complaints of the people you're leading because you don't know what's motivating their complaints. Especially when the people who complaining that you're leading have a mentality of bondage and not freedom. You can't let people bound in mind dictate your movements. That's a big lesson. And then Moses, he took the years of complaining and got bitter with it. At the end, right before God said you ain't going to Canaan, he was like, should we give y'all water, y'all rebels? He mad, he cursing them out. He said, well, shall we give you water? That's the biggest problem. Because it's a combination of insecurity and arrogance born of experience that you had as a leader, and you were so insecure that when the experiences started happening, it was clearly God, you start thinking it was clearly you. It's another thing. It's dangerous when you get ahead of yourself and you get full of yourself and you follow the carpenter. That's why I say that. Hard to get full of yourself following the carpenter. Easy to get full of yourself following the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. You'll get that when you get home. When you follow carpenter, it's a little different, you know. So that's why I use that language to keep us focused on what it is. But God says be strong and courageous. Strong and courageous, and I said it Sunday, one of my favorite, I'm not going to get a whole sermon. If you ever want to see a sermon, I preached on this, go to YouTube. It's 2023 Baccalaureate at Morehouse College, and I preached this exact passage. And it is one of the most powerful scenes, but to me, it's a scene where God looks at the new leader of the people, and God is aware that this new leader got some issues. In fact, God is pretty clear that most of the folk he asked to do stuff got issues. Matter of fact, I don't know who was issueless. Who didn't have issues? Who didn't have challenges, who didn't have struggles, so that all of a sudden it's only in our culture because of some of the work of some of my colleagues, we put ourselves on pedestals as though we're beyond human. We're beyond the same things that plague other people, the same hurts, the same damages, all that stuff. And we forget the fact sometimes, and we let the people allow us for it. That's why you can't listen. Because people, always remember that Jesus model, everything is biblical. Because remember, you got to be careful when you give your ears to the people you're leading, because the same people you're leading one day will say, Hosanna, the next day, crucify him. So you can't set yourself up as the end all and be all. I'll tell this story a million. You know, when you get older, you keep repeating the same stories, right? You know we do that. You know that's one of the signs. Because you don't remember that you told it 20 times. and thank God for family members who indulge you. Because they would just sit there. Then they'd be like, Mary, if she tell this story one more time. You know. Right? And I think that, what was I talking about? See, that's the problem right there. What was I talking about, Mary? Come on, what was I talking about? See? See? That's my test. Yes, thank you. See, Betty? Because I said, this is a story I tell. I was saying right here, my very first TNT, and I said I was 33 years old. I was young. I got here. That's the age that some people start pastoring at that age. I was already 8 years in. And so I came here with some experience, but also very transparent and honest, because I don't believe you lead through lies. And it doesn't mean you're perfect, but you got to be willing to be honest with the people you lead, vulnerable, transparent, as Henry Nouwen said, not a spiritual exhibitionist. Come on, look at me, look at my wounds, look at my hurt. But I said to folk, I said to tell you, because that was folk you asked, let me just tell y'all something. I do not believe in elevating no pastor on no pedestal, right? I said, because I'm human. And I said, and plus I'm young. So, first night, the first TNT, I said, let me just say this. If by chance somebody come and tell you, man, I saw your pastor down at this cigar lounge and he was having a cigar and a drink, I said, it's me. I said, it's gonna be me. Man, we saw the pastor, his wife somewhere at the club, they was dancing. I said, that's us. Because I ain't wanna put any illusions out here, because it doesn't make sense to me. Now, you can decide whether you want to still be around or not, but what you're not going to get is me faking and lying and act like I'm something other than who I am, a human being. I'm a human being with a particular assignment, but no different than our assignments in life. So those struggles, I'm not immune to those struggles. I'm not immune to those issues. I'm not immune to any of those things. But God calls us, and we're not issue-less. Not just those who preach, but everything. We all come to those moments. And if sometimes we could just get out of the way and stop letting our insecurity knock on the door of our ego and tell us to let certain things fall upon us, praise that ain't all that, we could be okay. But we seemingly want to appear to be better than people or have more access to God. Now, I'm going to say this. If you go through the scriptures, everybody who God called had some issues. Some were big. Boy, you don't get bigger than David and his son Solomon. I mean, it was big issues. I mean, it was like a soap opera. Yeah, the son raping the sister, and the father don't say nothing. Like, you go on and on. And yet, didn't the scriptures talk about David being a man after God's own heart? But yeah, well, when you start talking about you want to be after God's own heart, just think about the person it's said about. And you read David's trajectory from beginning to end, that's a really complicated life with some real bad moments and some gross mistakes and some neglect as a father. I mean, I go on and on. Man, and had a man killed to get his wife. This dude had after God's own heart. Which means being a person after God's own heart isn't about perfection. Right? So it's a very powerful thing. Well, Joshua has issues connected to trauma and insecurity and his life, and like I said Sunday, when he was there 40 years before, people wanted to kill him. You don't just get over that. You know, I had in my life, I had one moment that scared me straight when literally dudes came looking to kill me, shot at me. I was 17. And I was like, I don't really like this. Because I was smart to know that when I saw them raise, they was like, there you go. I started zigzagging down the street like this. All it was pop, 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 pop. And then I ran, I'm jumping over fences, and I was like, that ain't fun. There ain't nothing fun about that. And it was at that moment I realized, I don't want to really do this for the rest of my life. Because I like making money, but I ain't like getting shot at. So that kind of was like, nah, this ain't for me. But again, a history, a trajectory, right? And so we all have these things in our lives. Like, part of the problem in our culture, worse now than it was when I was a young person, is this is such a performative cultural moment. Everybody's performing. Everybody has a stage. Everybody literally has a mic. And everybody wants to perform in some way, shape, or form, right? I really don't care that you had steak last night and you decided to take a picture before you ate it. Let me capture it. I ain't that invested in what you ate. apparently some people are. I mean, like, but it's such an exhibitionist culture. We are exhibitionists. And what's the opposite of exhibitionist? What is it? Voyeur. There you go, see? We are a culture of voyeurs and exhibitionists. That's what we've become, right? And everybody has, you don't have to be like, well, I gotta go make it big in Hollywood. No, you got Hollywood in your back pocket. This is the cultural moment we in. And it's difficult in that space right now. And people are driven by so many things. And a lot of the performance we engage in our addiction to spaces that elevate us. You know how many times I had conversations with people and be like, you know, I had a friend of mine when we was in Texas last week, talking about another friend who was there, Betty, and he was on there commenting about a post. And I just asked him, this is a good friend of mine. And I was like, why do you think the world care about what you think? I said, why do you think the world cares about your comment? Like, you gotta say something? Why? Especially in the face of ignorance. I will never respond to ignorance. Because then if you respond to ignorance, who's the fool? Ain't my time too valuable? But what it does is this age masks many of our insecurities. If I want you to be interested in my life all day, every day, it really is a revelation about my insecurity. It really is. But this is the world we create. And can you imagine we're in an age where we're monetizing our insecurity? Like, this is where we are. Right? And so things are critical in life, especially in this moment where people are being seduced by exhibitionism and intoxicated with voyeurism and all these things. And then in the midst of that, you got these political issues, this first 100 days of chaos and this insane man. And then people are distracting themselves away, because at first it was the thing every day, but you know the spin cycle don't last long in the people's imagination. And so after the first month or so, we start fading away from listening to it, looking at it, and we tune back into the great distraction while he was doing all this other stuff. And we start zooming back in. We up here TikTok, and we up there all the other stuff. They got so many different things, I don't even know what's what. And we back to the distracting mode, and we focus on all this stuff. And now to really engage this political, social, cultural moment and really face it, to be committed to your people no matter where they are, whether it's standing with migrants, whether it is standing with those who are considered, you know, don't have their citizenship in this country, or standing with those who are poor, or standing with those who are members of the LGBTQ community. You know what it takes to stand in this moment? Strength and courage. So God's statement to Joshua ain't a strange statement in a moment where more people are seduced by weakness and insecurity. Strong and courageous is a powerful directive. He didn't command him to perform miracles. He commanded him, be strong and courageous 3 times. And the last time, be strong and very courageous. Because you're about to enter a battle. And now the battle is in the promise. But it's still a battle, and it's still in the promise. And so you guess what? Yeah, I'm on your side, but that fight gonna be a little bloody. You're gonna come out with some scars and some wounds. So I need your strength and courage, because if you don't understand, there's some realities and things that will only come your way in life if you pass. Like remember the old adage, go look this up, the obstacle is the way. The obstacle is the way. Yeah, I know. It's a philosophical thing. The obstacle is the way. The obstacle is not what you avoid. The obstacle is the way. Because any space that requires your courage is the way. The obstacle is the way. Yeah. Yeah, he needs to, because, well, you kind of messing with me now too, because like he needs him to get the assignment done, but I thought he was in control of everything. See, not you, not me, but I'm just saying, this is what it pushes us to. Why would God require anything of me if God controls everything? Why would God require anything of me, especially connected to my internal or intestinal fortitude? For what? You're going to do what you want to do anyway, God, right? Or how about the fact that like God is like, yo, I'm really hoping she gets it this time. I hope she can do it. I wanted to believe in herself so much. Let me look at my clown. Oh, yeah, I'm about to be out of here. I want her to believe in herself so much and move in the grace and the power that I've given her so much that she actually thought it was me. Y'all missed that. Y'all, you feel that? That I want you to be so consumed with who I made you and how I made you and what I gave you that you actually thought it was me and it's you. I want you to be so consumed with what I've given you that you blow your own mind. And it's not a kind of narcissistic, arrogant kind of way, because when you realize that you've been given this gift of life and given these talents and abilities, it ought to give birth to a certain kind of humility where, yes, I did it, but these gifts ain't come out of nowhere. Everybody don't play the guitar like this, and everybody don't speak like that, and everybody don't teach like that, and everybody don't greet people like that, and everybody doesn't. So what you have, I want you to, like, it's like I said, I want you to be so invested in what I've given you that the lines get blurred between me and you when you look at yourself. Again, not in some arrogant, narcissistic way, but walking fully to know that God has actually equipped me for this season. Joshua, I've equipped you for this moment. I've given you, you've had the experiences for this moment. I'm not, and here's a deep thing. The deep thing. When God gives these assignments, there's no vote. There's no meeting. Right? Like, Moses don't come to the people talking about, listen, we're going to call a meeting to see if y'all really want me to lead. Moses is like, listen to this. Boy, I'm going to get out of here for real because I'm going to see the game. But think about Moses' assignment. Moses' primary assignment is not to go talk to the people. Talk to Pharaoh. Boy, that's a whole, y'all don't even get that. I don't want you to talk to the people who bound. Talk to the one who's binding them. That's the message. Bypass the people. They'll never hear you fully in the first place. That's why when Moses then says, because Moses' issues are not just with Pharaoh, he's like, what if the people don't believe me? He told them to do a few good tricks because people easily influence. Put your hand in the clothes, pull it out, it's leopard, put it back in, it's clean, take your staff, throw it down, snake, pick it back up. See, we easily maneuver by stuff like that. Pharaoh, not so much, because Pharaoh got his own people. But we get when they question you, do a few tricks and they'll get over it. Because we can be really gullible like that. But now with Pharaoh, I need you to go to him, talk to him, and ready to let my people go. And then if he don't let them go, right? Show him how we get down. If he don't let go, bust him up in the head with these plagues. Let him know we about business right now. We ain't playing. Because look at the language. Why, God? Why do I got to do all of this? Why you got me going up to Pharaoh? Why you got me going to Egypt? Why you got me talking like this? And here it is. It's quite simple. God says, because I heard them, my people, and I seen them. And I don't want to look at them like this no more. Because the real question becomes like, see the way the scripture's set up, well, what happened all them years, bro? Was that part of this what you required? See, no. And by the way, God does not come down with some vicious act and like, boom. He chooses one among them to lead them. Because they couldn't receive God anyway. They got tired. We tired of this smoke by day, fire by night stuff. We tired of this manna. They had issues with God anyway. But I want them to see you. That's the Isn't it a beautiful thing that when God does some of God's greatest moves in the life of people is from other people? I mean, I don't know about you. I don't know the last time you had a supernatural act where the hand of God came through the ceiling of a building, was like right on the wall, Mary, go to the Bronx now. But the God encounters you've ever had in your life have been with other people. Isn't that deep? If you could tell me a people-less encounter with God, you ain't telling the truth. Ain't that heavy? Right? It's either through people or what else? Nature. God encounters are through people and nature. Right? He was walking down the beach one day, and boy, the waves were ebbing and flowing. And all of a sudden, the familiar sounds of the waves crashing to the seashore, you've heard 1,000 times, but today they said something different. You felt something different. Maybe the reason why when you're in nature you get closer to God is because you're paying attention more. Less distractions. Right? Well, why save that gift of paying attention for vacation? Wow. Use it every day. Hard to pay attention when you're distracted all the time. Hard to pay attention when you're doing this. How many people done got hit by a car with that right here? A whole lot. Distracted literally to death. Well, those are the physical deaths, see? But some of us are distracted to emotional death. And distracted by way of addiction. I mean, I go on and on. Be strong and courageous. It takes strength and courage to follow your own path. It takes strength and courage to march to your own drumbeat. It takes strength and courage to cut against the grain, to do what is countercultural, to not fall in line with everybody else and do what everybody else is doing. It takes strength and courage to be your own self, strength and courage to be authentic, to be the real you. That takes a lot of courage to be you without any kind of excuses. Because isn't it refreshing when you encounter real people? Yes. You have people in your life, like, man, I like so-and-so. Man, they just real. You love that. You love that, right? Because everybody. I had a celebrity Saturday at service, and I'm not going to call the name. I don't tell nobody business. But I had a celebrity at service on Saturday in LA, and got diagnosed with prostate cancer. Came up to me after service like, Pastor, I need you to pray for me and pray with me. Because celebrity don't mean much when you get that diagnosis. Because you find at the end of the day, even though we make people superhuman, they're quite human. Right? So be strong. It takes strength and courage to be honest. Nobody leads for honesty. Our culture don't even require honesty, clearly. It's a culture of lies right now, right? And Donald Trump ain't the only one every day giving us fake news. You watch TikTok lately? TikTok is full of foolishness and fake videos and all this stuff, all designed to get clicks and all designed to sell, and everybody's selling something. If I see one more commercial for Crocs sneakers, I messed up because I looked at one time. That was a mess up. Now every time I get on it, because I like a comfortable shoe when I'm traveling, and Crocs is kind of comfortable. So I looked at the sneakers one time. Boy, every time I turn on TikTok now, I'm getting the Crocs sneakers. I'm like, what did I do that for? You gotta be careful because the algorithm is designed. See, you don't even know you're being harassed because it's stuff you like. You don't know you're being played because it's stuff you like. Isn't this amazing technology? Every time I get on, it's stuff I like to look at. I wonder why. And every now and again, they're gonna slip a little sales pitch in there for you, right? How many of y'all done bought something in the TikTok shop? Don't tell the truth. Let me see your hand. Y'all better stop lying. Some of y'all are ashamed. I ain't gonna be ashamed. Right? And then some folks on TikTok shop. I'm going to Macy's tomorrow. I need to be in the store. All right. Let me help you out. TikTok. Okay. How many of y'all bought stuff on Amazon? All right, here we go. Here we are. Okay, here we go. Because just when y'all thought y'all was off the hook, Amazon said, right? So yeah, it takes strength and courage in this day and age to live the life you are created to live. So many things vying for your attention, like Knicks games. Yeah, I'm about to wrap it up. All right. So, but I love this conversation because everything was covered, right? But this it is. I'll close with this, that scene of Joshua, every time I think about it, I close my eyes and I see it. Because I got to see it in order to preach it. I don't write it, I see it. And every time I see it, I see Joshua's fear. I see his anxiety. I feel the weight of his trauma. I feel the insecurity. And in the midst of all that, I still see him lead the people. He still leads the people. Because it's possible to do great things from God while you have great struggles with yourself. Man, that gives me hope that I could do great things for God while I'm still struggling with me. And my personal struggles don't necessarily disqualify me for service in this army. That's when big words like grace come out, mercy come out, love come out, and then we live. I'm going to end it with what I think is there's so many great quotes in Sinners, but before the sun went down, it was the greatest day of my life. And that day was the day he created. He played in front of people. Oh, I can't tell about it, I'm sorry. But let me ask this question. I'll leave you with this. The sun is down. Was this the greatest day of your life? And let me help you in case you sit here thinking about everything that went wrong today. Oh, I got fired. I ain't got no money. It's always a great day when you breathing. Amen? Come on, let's stand. Don't ask me no questions. Don't come up to me. I'm going to tell you right now. I'm making a beeline to my office. I'm going to be to my car before most of y'all get out of the sanctuary. And watching it on my phone, okay? I don't even want to look at the score yet, but okay. God, we are so grateful and thankful that you give us these amazing spaces, oh God, to not only learn, but to laugh. God, the tragedy is sometimes it's only when we get older we understand the healing nature of laughter, the medicinal nature of laughter. Sometimes, oh God, the quickest way to healing is the sharing of joy. So I thank you for these moments where we can laugh together and learn together and grow together. Thank you for the times, oh God, where you continue to push us to be our best possible selves. And the truth is, oh God, in these days, in these times, it's going to take a lot of strength and courage to be our best possible selves. And our best possible selves, not our perfect selves, but our authentic selves. Thank you for that reminder tonight. We love you, Lord. We honor you, God. And it's in your name we pray. Amen. God bless you. Have a good night.